on Friday, the main event, the one everyone knows is going to be the biggest upset of the season, and that's the Blues taking on the Waratahs. The biggest upset ever. The Blues actually going to beat the Waratahs. What do you reckon, boys? Who's missing in this one, Harry?
Yeah, so I mentioned Paddy Torbalotto fractured his arm, season ending for him. So there's the second starting lock for them gone. For the Waratahs, though, Harry Johnson-Holmes gone with a syndesmosis injury. Jake Gordon gone with a Cat 1 concussion. You saw him when I went back and watched it. He was stumbling all over the joint after getting his head in the wrong side of a tackle, so he'll be out. Isaiah Parisi limped off with a hip pointer, which is essentially just a bruise on the bone, but often keeps him out for a week or two. I'd suggest, knowing that it's the last game of the year, they're just going to give him all the painkillers, but who knows if he'll be able to actually get on the field. And then Langy Gleeson injured his shoulder and I think is in some doubt as well. On the returning column, you got Bodie Barrett now confirmed. They said he was going to be racing the clock after getting some stitches and a big gash on his heel a couple of weeks ago. But they said he's trained perfectly on Monday, so he's all good, which is a shame for Tars fans. And then I think hopefully the big ins for the Tars will be Lalakai Feketi coming back from his ankle injury, Jed Holloway from a thigh injury, not just a rest as well, and Dave Parecki you would expect back after just a rest week.
Yep, fair enough. The last matchup kind of says a lot, I think, unfortunately. It was also in Auckland, and the Blues ran away a little bit with that one, 55-21. I guess we could say the Tars sent a bit of a B team over there by that.
A complete B team. You could definitely say that.
Could you? All right. Well, they rested a whole bunch of players, but we are missing a whole bunch of players again this time, so there's a little bit of a similarity. It's not feeling great, but...
It's the team doesn't look worse than I think what we're going to turn up with. It could be close though on par, but it was 55-21. That was a bit of a disappointing moment for Waratahs as they started building towards the back end of the season. But the Blues boys, we're speculating. We know Tuapolotu is missing. Does that mean we see Suafoa and James Tucker in the locks as the lock partnership?
I think so. I think the only other person we could see is Tommy Robinson fill the void there, but I think Suafoa he's been chosen all season, has been great. Whether it's been it's been largely in the locks, so I think it's a no-brainer for him and James Tucker, who is the only remaining ironed in stone lock. You'd have to think about going that.
Yep.
In the front row, I think they'll just stick with what's working. Offer, Riccatelli and Laulala, so pretty hard to go past them. Interesting about Kurt Eklund kind of falling out of favour, and Riccatelli's just been great for them, and he's just signed on for another couple of years with the Blues, so clearly well liked and getting the results from him. So I think that's pretty simple. The back row, Harry, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting surely Akira Ioane comes back. I don't know why they benched him for Big Sauce, considering he'd played like 2 games in a row, then had a rest, then played 1 game, then had a rest.
Yeah, they said it was part of his personalised All Blacks resting plan, which I don't understand how coming off the bench is resting. But
that's ridiculous. Anyway, that's good. That means he'll play. Dalton Papali'i back in the 7 jersey and Hoskins to 2-2 playing at 8, I would think as well, surely.
Harry, which team are you going for? You're saying Akira. It's good that Akira is playing. That's not good for the Waratahs.
I'm a rugby fan, mate. I'm not a Waratahs fan. Well, I am, sorry, but I'm both.
We're all Akira fans, mate. He's here in my photo. Check us out on YouTube if you're not watching the video already. Okay, we've got in the backs Finlay Christie, Beauden Barrett. Just an All Black halves pairing. Fantastic. In the centres, we'd be surprised if we didn't see Harry Plummer holding down that 12 jersey with a possible RTS on the bench or just no space. And Rico, who had an absolute blinder last week. And Nels rounding out the back 3.
All right, mate. Who other than Clark and Talea on the wings, and we're saying Perifetta after his return back into the starting side or back onto the side last week from his injury. So we think he'll come back in at that fullback jersey.
Well, that is the first question I've got, guys. Should Zahn start, considering that he's been there the last half a dozen weeks, or do you just go Para-franchise straight back in?
Para-franchise straight in.
I don't know. I actually feel like Zahn's been pretty good, pretty rock solid, and I think finals footy as well. They really like that massive boot, which has paid dividends the last few weeks. Like he's put some kicks through that no other player in that team can, and I think
they scrape past the Highlanders. You've got to put Para there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I actually think that they'll start Sullivan and keep Perifetta coming off the bench.
I hope you're right. But, I mean, Zarn Sullivan added 0 in attack last week. Absolute 0. So I do hope you're right. And looking at tackles, 0 tackles. So 0 in attack, 0 in defense last week.
I think the nice thing is for the Blues here, they could probably rest a few players for the semi-finals.
Don't mind if they do as well. If you're listening to the Pod Blues,
please
give us a chance.
Guys, the next one, Big Sauce, obviously started at 6, has not had much of a run at all, but obviously very highly valued in that side. Is there any chance that he starts, or I think you might have answered this one already, Craigs?
Yeah, I think it's a lock. If he could possibly start a lock, but I don't see him starting at 6. I think he'll definitely feature in the 23. But I mean, the only thing to note about him is he is one of the fitter players in the team. So despite being almost 2 meters tall and a heavy character, he smashes some of those fitness, like he's close on some of those fitness records. But so he can definitely play the 80. But I think he'll come off the bench.
Yeah, I don't think he's starting. So, I mean, he's not in the form, and they've got enough players there that can do it. And Akira Ioane's a big game player. I think he'll step up in a match like this. So no, I think it's pretty simple. You start Akira over Big Sauce. You haven't been starting Big Sauce all year. It's not his time.
Yep. Now, look, we touched on it. No space for RTS. So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he did get included last week on the bench because of an injury because they didn't play Barrett. So saw him come in, but clearly, he's signed. He's on his way out. There's no real point to play him unless.
Well, to win the comp would be the real point, but obviously they've shown their cards, and that is that Plummer is their first choice. So I don't think he's versatile enough to be on the bench. I think they see him as a wing option. Bryce Heem's just too much better at too many positions than him.
You'd have to think so.
And they put him on for 14 minutes last week in a tight one against the Highlanders. If they had faith and they were going to be starting him this week, they would have given him a little bit longer, I reckon. So
yeah, I agree.
Answer.
Guys, the other one I had was how big is the effect of losing Patrick Tuipulotu? Because he's obviously a bit of a talisman in that side. He has been a captain in the past. They played 2 games in rounds. I think it was 10 and 11 against Fijian and Trua, where they got up in Fiji and turned a big second half on to try and probably play the only bad half Fiji played over there. And then they snuck past Moana 31-30 with a little bit of a B team as well. I think that Tuipulotu has a lot personally, and it's probably the only opportunity area between him and Plummer in this side. What do you guys think?
I think he adds a lot. I think in the line out, I think they can cover him in the line out, but when you've got Akira and Satutu on the field, obviously he provides great carries to Tuipulotu, but when you have Akira and Satutu, you're not short on carries. So I'm not too worried with him when you have both Akira and Satutu on the field. Otherwise, I think he's a huge loss.
Yeah, I agree around the paddock. Maybe not as significant as we probably would think in terms of the line out still function well without him. The scrum has as well. But his experience, his leadership, that sort of stuff is irreplaceable. And I don't think Akira brings that sort of stuff coming back into the starting side. And someone like James Tucker, I don't think has that same influence. So that's the thing. If push comes to shove for them and it's a tight game, I think that's where you find he's going to be missing. But it's probably not the game they need to worry about that.
Yeah. Guys, on the Waratah side, we won't take quite so long on this one. I got Tetra Faulkner, Parecki, Archer Holtz. The only question there is, does Leah Tinganga does he get a chance to start at tight head? Any thoughts there?
No, look, I really liked Holtz in the past. I think he's got a big future ahead of him at the Tars. He's been that first choice. He's coming back. Get him some minutes. We haven't seen enough of Leah Tinganga to say that he has to be the starter as well.
You've asked the question, can he play both? Can Leah Tinganga play both sides? And he can. But no, I think Archer Holtz will definitely be starting for sure.
I got Holloway Sinclair in the row with Hannigan on the bench. I just think Sinclair's been too solid for them and plays that role very, very well.
I would agree, but Hannigan had a blinder last week, I have to say, actually. He had a really, really good game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Hannigan and Holloway, Sinclair kind of...
They're just like for like, and I just don't think they can play a whole team like that. Like, they need a point of difference, and I think Sinclair is that point of difference. He plays a little bit... even though he is another back row, he does play a little bit differently to the others. In the back row, I got Teleni Seal back at 6, Michael Hooper and Lengy Gleeson, 6, 7, 8. Obviously, that just puts, who's going to be on the bench. But my thinking is you probably go Hannigan and then maybe like a Will Harris. Or you could just go Charlie Gamble, maybe, so you have someone that can play across 7 as well.
I think,
there is so much versatility.
No, I think you have Gamble on the bench. I think I've said it before, he's your Pete Samu. He can cover your 6, 7, 8. And then maybe you have someone like a Hannigan that can cover locks as well as, someone transition into the back row if they need it as well. It covers everything.
I got Teddy Wilson, Ben Donaldson at 9 and 10. Teddy Wilson, obviously being captain in the under-20s, he's back, thank God. Harry Goddard, I thought was pretty solid, but Teddy Wilson's been very good when he's been on, so I reckon they'll start him despite the young age, but could go either way. And then Ben Donaldson, obviously going to be a bit of a tough call there with what they do with Tane Edmund as well. What do you reckon, Craigs?
I was going to say, I think Goddard for sure. I mean, Goddard's got that Coleman connection, right? He played for him the whole season over there for the Giltinis. So I think Goddard will be starting for sure.
I think it's a tricky one. Personally, I think I'd probably be picking Teddy Wilson, to be honest. I do really like Goddard as well. And yes, there's that connection, but I think DC wants to get the win. So whatever he thinks is best for the team.
I guess it's what do you think the balance is, who's better to start and who's better to bench, who's going to be making more of an impact later as well, if it is a line ball call. And, I think Wilson has played a lot more bench role this year. Goddard's maybe a bit more level-headed to try and keep things calm at the start, so maybe that will be the deciding factor, but could definitely go either way. And Nels, what do you reckon about Tane versus Dono?
Yeah, on the other question, I think there's a real difficulty. This is one of the biggest questions of the week for me and across all the teams. I mean, they brought Edmund on for very small minutes last week when things weren't going the way that we would have expected for the Tars and for Dono. But look, he's improved through a few weeks. He didn't have a cracker last week. Edmund is probably going to be our first choice next year. We've tried to give him 20 minutes the last couple of weeks. I think it's time for Edmund maybe to come back into start, mainly as well because of the issues we're having with, Parisi might be missing. Nwangani had some real issues there at fullback. So we've got to find someone to cover it. So it becomes Marky Mark, Donaldson or Harry Wilson. And I don't think it's Marky Mark. So there's a good chance Dono can shift back and we get Edmund there at 10.
I think the only other question is going to be what's the reloading plan for Tane Edmund around his stress fracture. I reckon they've brought him in pretty early and they're managing his minutes really hard because of the tight timeline they had to get him back on the field. So I think that's a bit of an issue that they're managing as well.
He's only had 20 minutes the last 2 weeks, roughly. So they didn't really build his minutes last week.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. The only thing I'd say is I like Edmed for when in doubt, someone who can just truck it up a lot more successfully than Ben Donaldson, I think. But I think that's a great point, Harry. I think they're managing his minutes. So let's push on to the back line. Feketi, Walton, 12-13. And then the outside backs, probably Page Parisi on the right wing again. Although I think last week showed he really doesn't love the wing as much as he does outside centre. And Mark Nwangani at fullback again.
I know they played Walton at 13 with Tuapolotu at 12. I think Tuapolotu offers a little bit more of that physicality, ball in hand like Parisi. So I wouldn't be overly surprised. I know it goes against what we've been seeing, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if we see Tuapolotu in that 13 jersey to link up with Feketi and run some hard balls off him.
Yep, I like it. I actually love to see that, so I think it'd be good. Excellent. All right. I think we've covered all the questions we got for who would kind of cover things.
Wrap it up, boys. What's your tip? How many? Where's it going?
I'll go first on this one. Blues. Blues are going to win this one. Unfortunately, I say that as I'm wearing my Tars jersey, but Blues are going to win it. Let's go by 10.
Augie, if you're watching this video, you see Harry and I have a blue jersey behind us. That's Michael Hooper. You've got 2 blue jerseys behind you, and that's the Ioane brothers. So we all know who you're picking. I'm picking purely based on mind. This is all what I think will really happen. The Waratahs are going to somehow come good. You can almost hear it in my voice that I believe this.
Your voice has went up 2 octaves.
We are going to win this one on the final play, and we're going to score a try. We're going to win by 1 point. More than likely, we will score a try in the final play and we'll lose by 50. But I'll say we'll score a try and win by 1.
I love it. I love it. Like Nelson, I'm also going to be completely realistic, and I'm going to say Blues by 18.
Okay, good.
It's not realistic. It's going to be more than that, let's be honest.